Well,
And we're
hello there.
live and
Looks like we're
recording.
on.
Hello, folks, and
Good Friday to you.
the people on. Many of them have already chatted in where they're from. We today we're going to be talking about you, or who you're going to believe, you or your lying eyes.
Ta-ding. We're not going to sing it though.
No, we're not going to
We're
say
going to
it.
show it.
We'll start that in 5 minutes because
Right.
we wait 5 minutes and somebody just showed up. So there you go.
Hey.
And we've been working away here in the Act Matrix Academy.
We are getting ready for our Act Matrix boot camp
Boot
below.
camp and creating some courses.
Yep.
I was on this morning with Tina. I don't know why I got one of those emails, so I joined it. We got hawking
Oh,
up the build a business boot camp. Whatever
oh
that.
yeah, cool.
Come away 4 days, and you come away with an operating business,
Yeah.
internet-based business. So,
Yep.
way cool.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, it's a great deal. We can save you much time and money. Tina
Yeah.
said she was
Tina
there.
says I was there. Yeah.
She was hosting it.
Ninja tra Yes, no ninja today, Paul. This is going to be a presentation. So Paul's thinking
We're
he
not
might
doing
have
it.
been doing some ninja stuff today.
Yeah,
But
we got to get. Well, no, we'll be back.
yeah,
Well, and also Paul, uh, we paused it to make sure that some people got caught up with basic form training,
right.
and I'm not talking about you,
No,
but others
there's
needed to
others
get.
others in the dojo that need to
Well,
get.
we had so many people that needed to catch up that we didn't want to add new stuff, and so give them a week. Next week we'll probably come on or
Yeah,
something. Do some more where people get on the mat and show us their stuff.
yeah, that's good. Yeah. So no on the mat, but this is ninja in the sense of
Well, this is
we're gonna be
highly
working we're gonna be working the vertical line today. So we're
no, in reality. This is total ninja.
yeah yeah
So,
yeah. So this
but
is a ninja event.
we just won't be bringing people onto the mat.
Yeah, we're not gonna have you roll around.
So, no, yeah, we're not going to be rolling around from
Ninjas
knowing.
could benefit from knowing what is reality. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, Tina. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we would hope that the ninjas are able to, discern that.
Well, maybe at least go about the practice of noticing
Yeah.
it, and that's what today's presentation came about in large part because of January the 6th here in the States,
Yes. It was a real
in
game
the
changer.
in the blow up at the Capitol building in Washington D.C. and and of course all the stuff leading up to that. And so, so we thought it appropriate to expand more on that topic because Phil and I, of course, watch that from the point of view of the matrix,
Yes.
really the vertical line of the
Yeah, we were slacking back and forth about that. Slack is a
matrix.
online
we
program that
we
we use to
were indeed.
communicate.
Oh, we got 14 people on now. Wow, we really picked some up.
Yeah, yeah.
Good thing we waited.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We picked up 6 people since we started. You know, yeah, we haven't gone wrong yet. Waiting 5 minutes.
No.
And if you're watching a recording, do that. Can they fast forward it a little bit? I
Yeah,
don't know.
can. Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. Yeah, just know that if you're watching these recordings, you pretty much the first 5 minutes we're letting people come in and
Yeah, so
chatting a
you
bit.
slide your pointer over or whatever.
Just start at 105 and then
Because
you're
we definitely
yeah,
105. There it
we're
is, 105. So
and
now
we're now ready to go. There we go.
we'll,
Just
we'll
like
so let's see. Will and I never know how we want to play this, but we're going to play on the matrix.
We are.
Okay, but let's change the labels a little bit.
Okay.
for the top, I'm going to make.
So I'm going to draw. Okay, wait a minute.
Top, we're going to use reality.
Yeah.
I want to make.
I didn't have that one made yet, but I'll go ahead and make it.
You're going to make it. So we're going to put reality.
Reality. You know that concept?
And at the bottom, we're going to put fantasy.
So, real simple. Otherwise known as the vertical line, we have now changed the top and the bottom.
Right. So, and we have reality at the top and fantasy at the bottom. So now, from that, we can connect up our usual horizontal line that takes us that we'd be doing behaviors toward who and what's important to us versus behaviors away from yucky stuff. And just in case there's anybody new or needs refresher, that is, it always is the matrix. The away line is away from yucky stuff. Because really, that's the two big things that humans do. We are attracted to who and what's important to us, and we want to get warm fuzzies over there on the right. And over on the left, we got yucky stuff inside of us that we want to get relief from. And so that's, and throughout your day, if you notice, your behaviors are moving toward warm, fuzzy stuff, moving away to get relief from yucky stuff. And so, and really, that's
like that.
And it's not back from Oklahoma, back in Oklahoma, that right side's not highfalutin value stuff. We're not talking that. Your day-to-day activities, you're not just constantly thinking of that.
No,
you're not. You're just
thinking about getting a cup of coffee.
Right, exactly. You're just behaving. And part of getting
pouring the coffee.
There's probably warm fuzzies, and maybe some of it's getting away from some yucky, some tired or something. So you can notice that. But notice you weren't having a grand discussion with yourself about values and valued life directions and stuff. So that's what we're talking about with that. So, and the way we build this matrix, now I'll go back into a routine a little bit, is we say, well, can I ask you a few questions regarding this diagram? I'm just that way.
Miriam says yes.
Ask questions, right?
Tina, Sarah.
Now remember though, we got reality at the top.
Yep.
And
oh yeah, let me change that. We're going to change that. We're going to keep that theme, right?
And today we're noticing fantasy and reality. And so.
Okay.
So then we have the people that we can at times just reach out and touch, who is important to you, and who's important to you. I'll put it. I can get my keyboard fired up here. My wife.
The president. Oh, there we go. President.
That's important. Yeah, we can.
Wife.
We can put all kinds of stuff down there. You can also put pets, of course. Healthcare workers.
Healthcare workers. I was going to say that.
I put pets down there. Kids are down there. All kinds of cool stuff.
Kids.
There in the lower right.
Parents. Yes, Mary, we got it.
And so we can bring them to mind. Right now we're actually in fantasy. Because you're just bringing them to mind. They're probably not with you. Now, there may be one or two with you. But
unless you can see them.
My wife isn't sitting here with me right
now.
I can just think of my wife. And so then we bebop over to the left-hand side, lower left-hand side, and now we talk about the yucky stuff that all of us spend a good amount of time not wanting each day. So what kind of not wants uh, show up down there? The one I usually start with is fear. Fear doesn't feel good, so we don't want it. So that
Stress.
stress,
Oh,
that's thoughts, COVID. And with COVID, you'd have to say, what kind of yucky feeling shows up with COVID. Because we can make a case for COVID being over on the right.
yes, we could.
And if,
A
in
lot
case you're
of
thinking,
yeah,
scientists who study COVID
yeah,
might put COVID on the lower right
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's
They are
important to them.
fascinated by it.
So they're fascinated. It gives them a job.
Yeah, yeah. Grant
So
money, all that stuff.
right. So notice the
Anger, isolation,
loneliness,
germs, right.
frustration, all these things are yucky. They don't feel good. And so now we've got that yucky stuff on board. We want to get rid of it. And so now we go to the upper left and talk about, well, death. You mean thinking about death? Because if you're
Thoughts of
dead,
death. Yeah.
all of this stuff goes away.
This webinar's done.
That's
Thoughts of death.
so. Now we go to the upper left, which is behaviors, and this behaviors we do to get relief from that yucky stuff. So for fear, I'll do the classic. I'll run. Feet don't fail me now, kind of thing. Get me out of the way. But
Run.
gosh, like for loneliness, what might I do for loneliness?
Complain and cry.
Complain
Yeah.
and cry about no loneliness. That might be good. You might do other things. You might eat. You might sleep. You might do online shopping. All of these. And notice many of
Sleep, eat.
can be used for almost any lower left stuff. Uh,
Hike.
but
Go.
notice, and see, Melinda said text friends, but in that case, texting friends might be an away move from loneliness.
Yeah.
So
Feel
where we would oftentimes
call.
put, you'd think, oh, text friends, that's in the upper right. Not if it's directly
Social media scroll. There you go.
right.
Scroll.
If you're doing it in the service of getting rid of your loneliness, well, that's an away move, which is cool. That's
Yep.
fine. And we're just looking at behaviors and analyzing the root of the reward that we're going to get
Right.
for doing the behavior.
What are we looking for here?
What are we looking for? Okay. And then we're on the upper right. We can go ahead and put text on the upper right because you could text your friends to as a toward move. You could visit your friends.
You could text the president.
You could text the president. Good. I don't have his number. Can you text the White House?
Well, you could tweet him.
Maybe. Well, yeah, you could text the White House.
Visit.
You could do Zoom calls with folks. A lot of those nowadays because of the pandemic.
Zoom calls. There we go. Visit.
Oh, for your pets of different varieties.
Feed the pet.
Sorry, feed them. So you can feed your pets. Oh, you can feed your kids too, for that matter.
Yeah, they like that.
Yeah, they like that. All kinds of cool stuff that you can do in the upper right. And finally, we have folks notice all of that stuff. So you might have the opportunity in the next week or so to notice who's important to you and notice yucky stuff showing up. And notice yourself doing away moves and notice yourself doing toward moves. A lot of people saying yes. So they might
totally. There you go.
Okay, we're still noticing the difference between fantasy land and reality, even in this next one. But now we're going to talk about you and other people. So when you go to be with somebody else, as soon as you're with one other person, one or a million, whatever, you instantly pick up shared purpose. So you and that other person now have a shared purpose. Okay. And happiness. They might have a shared purpose.
Happiness. Cool.
They might. That's indeed could be a shared purpose. Yeah. Like there's many other shared purposes. Raising
babies.
Oh, the first one's making babies.
Yep.
First you
Okay.
make them, then you raise them.
Well, we're gonna make and raise
This is
in
what
that
those
order, right?
basic biological functions. So make and
That's what
baby.
we're here for. Get them genes, get them genes passed into the next generation, folks. Growth.
Growth. There we go. Better future might be a shared
Better
purpose.
future. Oh yeah.
The list goes on and on and on of potential shared purposes uh, that you can get to. With when you're with other people,
Oh
well,
yeah.
some of that yucky stuff gets turned up, and some of it's sort of this special reserve for when you're with other people. Uh, more opportunities can be that. But in the lower left, we call them social yucky things. So it's that yucky stuff that particularly shows up when you're with somebody else or with a group. So what do you think? You get together with somebody and some yucky stuff. You know what can show up? I know. Here's one. The Dunning-Kruger effect. I know
Yeah.
that.
Ah.
But I put in the basic dislike. Maybe you're get around somebody that you really don't like. And so now dislike
The
is
minute you lay eyes on them,
right. So
irritation.
you're so even better, you dislike them and you still got to sit in a meeting with them. Like yikes.
Right next to them.
And I bet you almost all of us have had that happen. Imposter syndrome,
Boredom. Yes.
boredom can show up with other folks. Anxiety.
I'm thinking of the Bernie meme going around. Bernie
Oh, I
sitting
love
there
that Bernie meme.
on his with his coat on and his mittens on.
Did you see the one with the painter Bob Ross?
Oh yeah.
That was a cute one.
Great.
So
Anxiety
anyway,
around,
all that
yeah.
anxiety about saying exactly. So out of control.
He's
He's
breaking the
breaking.
net. Yeah, yeah. Bernie's breaking the net. That's great.
So anyway, we got all
Making
kinds
a
of cool
fashion
stuff,
statement.
and that we're all sort of having fun right now. So you can also have happy stuff or good feeling stuff that
Oh
shows up
yeah.
in others. But of course, that's the stuff you want to move toward, and not the yucky stuff. But anyway, so now we're with others. Maybe we're with maybe we get around somebody we just dislike. We don't like them, and so what are you
So
going to
that
do?
Dunning-Kruger effect shows
Well,
up.
what are you going to do when you get around somebody that you just don't like?
Move away from that
What kind
Dunning-Kruger
of
stuff.
what kind of behavioral urge shows up?
Give the face.
Give
Oh,
them a
give the
blank
face.
face. Stay silent. I got a better one. Leave. Oh,
Yeah, I'm booking.
it's gonna hit them.
I'll be booking.
All
Leave.
right. Yeah, roll your
Roll eyes. There you go.
all
Roll
kinds
the
of cool stuff,
eyes.
right? And then if you're bored in a meeting, you might get on your phone, right? Uh, Calling sick. It's popular over there. Gossip is the favorite one around the world. People gossip,
Let's
get
put that
together
up.
about other people and such. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on. Social away moves, getting relief from yucky stuff. A lot of it goes on, folks. And then finally, of course, the myriad of things.
Can do other work. Yeah, there you go.
Other work, exactly.
Bring your other work with you to the
and
meeting.
silly articles. Hey, bring up memes about Bernie
Bernie.
Sanders. That's a good away move.
Do Bernie memes. I'm going to put that over here. Do Bernie memes.
Get in Facebook comment fights. Oh my God.
Spread silly articles. There you go. Yeah, yeah.
And then getting Facebook comment fights.
Oh yeah.
What fun. And finally, up in the upper right, we always put communicate, because if you don't communicate, you're sunk. Even if you don't like the other person, you need to communicate about the shared purposes. And what are we trying to accomplish together? And so Phil's got a slow internet connection right now.
I do.
Yeah, the video
looks okay. It looks okay on my end.
Pausing. Who knows?
Okay.
Busy on my up here today. But anyway, set up meeting times. There we go. That's a good thing. Share towards shared purposes. We like to put in listen with respect. because there came listen with respect. That's a really huge one that sort of cuts across. I don't even think it's sort of. It does cut across all social stuff.
Yeah, pretty much anywhere you go.
Right.
Agree to group norms. All right.
Agree.
Agree.
There you go. All this
Get to
conversation.
some agreement.
Avoid judgments. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Avoid judgments.
At least notice yourself doing
Yeah, we tend to notice them.
them. Take
They
risks.
tend because they tend to show up.
They show up a lot. So now
Take
we got
risks. Speak up. There you go. Speak up.
we got
Participate. Right.
stuff going. And once again, of course, turn on our noticing stuff.
Right here.
And so you might have the opportunity to notice shared purposes and social yucky stuff and social away moves and social toward moves, that kind of stuff in the next week or so. Oh, some people say yes, definitely. All right.
Oh yeah.
So many opportunities for noticing.
Look at that.
And so, but now we want to turn our attention to the vertical line.
We're back. All right.
Because you get all that set up, and now people are familiar, with that. And now you could say something like, sort of all of those behaviors that we talked about just now, toward and away behaviors, that, they are highly dependent upon the vertical line. Meaning, are you doing those behaviors based on fantasies, or are you doing those behaviors based on reality? So, does anybody want to care to guess? Generally, let's exclude video games and such, but generally, when you're doing behaviors, do you want to base those behaviors on fantasy, or do you want to base those behaviors on reality?
Mary says reality.
Reality. Yeah.
Paul says reality.
Let me tell you, that's where you want to go, folks. That reality really does work really well for those things. And we all know why, because if you start doing things based on fantasy, let's say we have the fantasy that a bear is coming after me, and that's pure fantasy. So I start running like heck to get away from that fantasy bear.
Okay, so the bear is
let's just do that. It's lions, tigers, and bears, right? So in this case, I've conjured up a fantasy bear. And oh my goodness, that fantasy bear is going to get me. But I actually do the behavior of running away from that fantasy bear. Now, since it's a fantasy bear, I'm going to have a really lousy time getting away from it. It's going to just keep up with me.
Unless, of course, there's a reality bear out here.
But there's not a reality
bear.
There
isn't.
It's pure fantasy. It's pure fantasy.
Yeah, I'll be running.
Right, and you see the problem with running from fantasy bears. It just doesn't work. It doesn't meet our workability criteria. And so in any behavior, we're always wanting to pause and think to ourselves, oh gee, is this behavior working to get me where I want to go in life? And so running, well, literally spending the rest of your days running from a fantasy bear may not be workable for the rest where you want to go in life. Yeah, maybe it is, but I know personally, if I spent pretty well 24 hours a day running from a fantasy bear, it wouldn't work out too well for me. That wouldn't work. I understand it's an extreme example. However,
Not so much.
Not so much.
Au
Exactly.
contraire.
Au contraire. And Phil knows it's really not even an extreme example, folks.
Nope.
I just brought it up because it sounds sort of silly. But what kind of fantasy might people get into that would literally sort of having them run in fear or do things motivated by fear, do away moves motivated by fear, particularly? I guess they could do toward moves motivated by fear as well.
Yeah, they
But
could. Yeah, true.
we could do one, and now we got
Paranoia, Paul says.
right, and hoarding
Or
guns is
guns.
a great thing to do.
Conspiracy theories.
And
Misinformation.
that's what we're getting into, which is the land of fantasy.
Yep.
Which is
stockpile canned goods.
And then let's go with the definition of a conspiracy theory, which is their fantasy. They're not real. It's a theory. It's a made up thing.
Conspire is a mental.
Right. There's real conspiracies. Obviously, people get convicted for them. That's how they brought down the mafia and stuff with lots of you can prove conspiracies. So we're not right. And Miriam says spoken into existence. Exactly. So we're not talking actual provable conspiracies. These are pure made up by the mind's beautiful ability to do something called derived relational responding. And this is where most people would think, oh, all derived relational responding, that is thinking up connections between things, that's all good.
Au contraire.
Knife cuts both ways, folks. You can DRR, derived relationally respond stuff up in your mind. That is, make connections in your mind, and come up with totally fantasy land conclusions, and then base your behaviors on those fantasy land conclusions, and then you're not doing reality-based behaviors. And you can see why Phil and I watched the 6th of January, and we knew that we were watching a whole lot of people who were highly motivated by conspiracy theory, fantasy stuff.
Highly motivated and completely convinced.
Right. And so their convictions and what they were doing, we're not going to argue with. I mean, they believed what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
They told us so. Selfies inside the Capitol.
And that was a sign of how convinced they were of what they were doing. I mean, they had become so deep into the conspiracy theories that they had lost touch with reality and thought this was cool, and I'm going to document it for the authorities.
Actually, it became their reality. It was. Yes.
Became their reality, exactly. But it's not a reality.
In their reality.
And so, folks, you may have you might be thinking, oh, the cult mentality. That's where I'm getting at, Melinda. So we all may think, oh, well, and just in the last year or so, this is the first time something like this has happened, where a whole bunch of people got caught up.
Well, hold on there. I don't know. I'm going to consult my history book right now.
Phil's going to go do a little reading and see if he can find any other examples. No, he's actually not. He already knows. This is not a new thing.
No. Well, because DRR is not a new thing either.
DRR is not a new thing, and people getting. So let's go back to it. They get comfort from the conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And the comfort comes from something. I'm going to use a little bit of a technical term, but you'll like it after I explain it. It's called congruence.
Yeah.
Is the technical cognitive psychology kind of term. It's called congruence. And I'll give you an example, a really easy example. Let's say you're out taking a walk down the street, and you look up ahead and you see like a white object in somebody's yard, and
Yeah.
it catches your attention, but you don't know what it is. So now you don't feel comfortable.
Yep.
That don't feel
Uh-oh.
that doesn't feel good. You don't like that.
Got,
And the human
got it.
mind,
Uh-oh showing up.
we're set up. We're fear based animals, and so I want to know what that is. You know, and you walk along and you get closer and you get closer,
Uh-oh.
and you keep glancing over there, or maybe you're even staring at it.
Mm.
And then suddenly you get close enough, and you can think it was like a white yogurt tin or something.
Yeah. Piece of
Oh,
paper.
I congruence. You just experienced the relief of congruence. It's like, ah, now I know. Now, right. It's not a defense
No,
mechanism
no.
at all. It's just that you're scanning your environment and you got to know. You just
You're up
got to.
here scanning reality. You're looking at reality. That's for sure.
So, but this can be done on an imaginary level.
Right.
So if you get an imaginary fear going, and somebody says, "Hey, you know what? A and B go together,"
Yeah.
and that's what's leading to your fear. You know, and so
And you
whatever
say, you
those
mentioned they say it, so
are,
that's up here, right? A and B go together.
it gets into the trap of you go, there's the congruence that I needed. Now I feel relief. That conspiracy theory, because conspiracy theories are putting A and B together, just randomly. But once you put them together, you get relief, uh, and it's it can get into a one hell of a vicious cycle in a real
Oh
hurry.
yeah.
Some people, as they, and you'll see this because you can go in and factually bust up somebody's conspiracy theory, and guess what'll happen?
Oh, they freak out.
No, they don't freak out, but they'll quickly figure out another conspiracy
That's
thing.
what I mean. They're gonna, yeah, right.
They're not going to give up this conspiracy
Yeah,
theory, or they're going to add to it.
right.
Uh, I know QAnon right now is this problem, uh,
Yeah,
because a thing going where they thought something was going to happen and Biden
it
was
didn't.
going to be
Yeah,
inaugurated.
we're already a couple of days past it
Right.
happening.
And it's like the end of time, people. And
Right.
end of time's been around for
Yeah,
centuries.
the world's gonna end on
Yeah,
Thursday,
right.
and
And
then
they
Thursday comes, and no, really Friday. we
and then
we
they
did the
come.
calculations again.
The
Next
first
next
time, the
Tuesday.
first time in history they ever, and this was a long time ago, but it was exactly this line. It was like, okay, it's going to happen on
Yeah,
February the 15th,
yeah. Well,
whatever.
I'm thinking Y2K. Remember
Right,
Y2K?
but Y2K was another one, but it came and went. So the person immediately goes, you know what? I've consulted. Usually it's the Bible, and I've discovered I miscalculated.
Yeah,
I've
that's it.
corrected. I've
Got the wrong
corrected.
numbers.
I corrected my
We
calculations.
put the right numbers in. Yeah.
Here they go again. But they don't, and it doesn't matter what.
Everybody goes, oh,
Yeah,
okay, cool.
once again, and they go. So I don't know what they're going to do, but I guarantee you, the QAnon folks will figure out something.
Oh yeah. Well, they've moved to another platform.
Well, they'll move. They'll do something.
Yeah, that's what they'll keep doing it. Right.
And I'm actually not here to pick on those folks.
Nope.
Not.
That
I
is
just
well
talk,
within their purview to do whatever they want with that.
right. I'm talking about humans being humans.
Yeah.
And this is a long, long history. However, this process, gone unchecked, can lead to like January the 6th. And they're not gone. That's
No.
the problem. I wish it was poof, they were all gone.
Yeah.
But these people doing behaviors based out of fantasy. So, anybody on the call today or on the crowdcast today think that maybe you too, at times, do behaviors based on fantasy? What do you think?
Yes. Miriam says she's not immune. Rats. Right?
Now you've taken the first step. Right. We all do stuff based on fantasy, right? And as a matter of fact, all kinds of stuff about our world drives us more and more down. Usually we say into our minds, but this time I'm going to say drives us more into fantasy.
Yep.
Yeah. There's literally a book, well-written book called Fantasyland, and he does mention Disney World and other amusement parks, but when he says Fantasyland, he's talking about the United States. Uh, from his point of view, uh, the United States is particularly good at living in Fantasyland. Yeah, by Kurt Anderson, right? And good read if you want to read through it. But it's if you think about the vertical line, it's all about how people get uh, down into fantasy land, and then the problem is doing behaviors based on those fantasies. That's the problem. There's nothing inherently wrong with being in a fantasy. We all
Nope.
daydream, we all get into them, we all do stuff. But it's when you come up into the world of doing behaviors, now that's where the problems can start.
Yep.
A la January the 6th. Or you can buy things based on fantasy. Hey, I think it's time for me to go buy a gun. You see? So,
Get some relief from my fantasy.
and a lot of people have done that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even now, ammunition's all gone. They all went and bought up all the
Oh
ammunition.
yeah. Stockpiling ammo, weapons.
And then and canned goods and all kinds of other stuff that goes on, and these are behaviors based on the which you know maybe they're workable behaviors, maybe they're not. I don't know, but it can come to a point when they're not workable. So you got to compare what you're doing versus with reality, not with fantasy. That's the trick of this. And so, and of course, all you have to do is show somebody this crowdcast and they will be magically fixed.
Yeah. Poof.
That was a setup, by the way. No, they're not. They're not going to be fixed. But you do want to start, folks, as soon as you can on doing the practice, and it is a practice of noticing the difference, and that goes in the middle. So now Phil is going to go in the middle. And it really is. It's the very first thing that the Matrix was ever developed for. And some of you on the call may not know why. It's because I was there when it showed up, the Matrix. Showed up in my head. So I know the first thing it was looking at, and it was called, there you go, it's right in the middle, and it's called noticing the difference between, and in this case, reality versus fantasy. No, always going back and practicing. Right now, in this very moment, what is my reality experience versus what's going on? What am I fantasizing up?
What's going on in my
And how is that then affecting my behaviors?
right?
If you can get people coming back to that, yeah, seeing a thought as a
Oh, as a
thought,
thought. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
coming back,
Noticing you're having the thought.
that is called a discrimination task, and we labeled it D1 many years ago because it's the most important discrimination one, which is noticing that you'll oftentimes hear it said noticing the difference between five senses, experiencing and mental experience.
Yeah, that was our old way of doing things.
That's
right?
the old way, and this one is this, but it's reality versus fantasy.
Yeah.
If you're making a whole bunch of behaviors based on fantasy, there's going to be problems. Absolutely, there's going to be problems, and we got a lot of problems in this world right now, and basically they stem from people doing behaviors based on
Coming out of the fantasy land.
Right. And so I don't know how to fix it. Phil and I's only way of doing it is just keep showing kids.
Yep. Right from the beginning.
Everybody we can to say, you know what? If you're human, you're going to tend to go into fantasies because that's what we do because they feel good. They either feel good because we're getting warm fuzzies out of them or they feel good because we're getting relief from them. But either way, those fantasies feel good. And
feel good to me.
Right, they feel good, and so they're addictive.
Yeah.
for both appetitive and aversive
And
reasons.
immersive.
They're very addictive.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a twofer.
It is a twofer.
A
It
lot
is
of
very much a twofer.
right, they're addictive on both sides. Uh, yeah, we are behavior analysts.
Yep.
I got a PhD. Come on.
We've been talking this
in,
stuff for years.
in this stuff, right? But they're extraordinarily addictive. These fantasies, and so the only way that we've really seen to go at it is teach people or remind people. Well, you can notice the difference between those two things.
Yeah.
Your fantasy versus your reality, and then help people go about practicing noticing the difference.
Yeah.
And in doing that, hopefully more people then start head toward basing more behaviors on reality.
Bringing people up here,
Right.
up into the world of reality.
By the way, sometimes people say, why do Phil and Kevin always talk about chopping wood and carrying water? We talk about
They must have a lot of wood and water around.
a lot of wood and water, but we talk about it because they're metaphors for reality.
Yeah.
For doing things based on the need to chop wood, the need to carry water, right? There's something in reality that you need to be doing.
Yeah.
Building a fire, gathering food, all that kind of five senses.
Five
right?
senses experiencing.
They're based out of those things.
Yep.
And they're not based out of, you know, I can fantasize how great it would be to have this. That's how advertisers do it to you, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. You need one of these.
They get you fantasizing about
Right.
how cool it'll be for you to be driving a 10,000-pound SUV up and down your suburban street.
Yeah.
How cool you'll be. So those are sold on fantasies. They're not sold on.
Well, I'm going to date myself now because you're making me think of the big fantasy years and years ago was that smoking was cool.
Oh yeah, it was
The Marlboro Man and the people with the cigarettes in their hand that looked very suave and
I remember I'd walk a mile for a camel.
Yeah, for a camel. Yeah, yeah.
That was oh yeah, very suave and sophisticated looking.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So cigarettes sold on fantasy. And not wearing a mask makes me smart. Oh,
there you go.
Caught us up to the real time. Aren't I so cool and smart and with it that I'm not wearing a mask out in public? Aren't I cool? And that's a fantasy.
Yep.
Literally, she's quite right. That is a fantasy. Nobody in their right mind would go into an operating room without a mask on.
Yeah. Your doctor shows up for your major surgery. in his running gear, you're gonna
with no
what's
mask
going on here?
With no mask on. No. I mean, to stop a virus, you wear a mask. This is a no-brainer. However,
oh yeah, I breathe my own CO2. Yeah, that's another good
CO2, and there you go. It goes on, and that's made up. This is absolutely made up stuff. So always going back to reality. Sometimes you gotta, and then this is the next topic. Who you gonna trust?
Yeah.
Right? Who you gonna trust? And we have a bunch of people who have for centuries now really tried to study science. Science is all based on, real science, folks, is based on the study of physical things. A virus is a physical thing. CO2, by the way, is a physical thing.
Yep.
And all of that stuff is the science studying five senses stuff. And then, coming up with the best stuff they got based on reality. That's why science was developed. That's why Galileo got house imprisonment.
Oh, they didn't like him.
The Catholic Church because
he was messing with their fantasy.
He took a telescope and looked up into the sky.
Yeah.
And figured out things, basically that the Earth wasn't the center of the universe, and he got jailed for it. So he was one of the very first scientists that really caught heck because his reality didn't meet up with the fantasy that people had developed in their heads, and so it's always that tension between fantasy and the science studying the reality of things. So what would you include some
People
of the things?
screen so much they
Yeah.
don't have so much to believe what they.
Well, then you can encourage them to, I don't know, to their five senses experiencing while they're sitting there in front of the
Yeah.
screen.
What are they noticing as they're
Maybe
sitting?
they're watching us. Maybe the
Yeah,
screen is us. We're on the screen. And we would
right now we
say,
are. Yeah.
hey, notice the difference between your five senses experiencing and your mental experiencing or your fantasy. Are you doing behaviors based on fantasies? Are you doing behaviors based on reality? Now, they may come back and say, F you, I'm doing it based on reality.
Yeah.
Okay, but at least you had them ever so briefly notice
Get
the
on the
difference.
back up for a nanosecond.
Exactly.
You-
And
Worthy thing to do.
right, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we do is we just keep coming back to it, coming
Yep.
back to it. Noticing the difference, doing D1, noticing the difference between reality and fantasy is an ongoing process. If I stopped, I'd be so deep into fantasy land, it'd be pathetic.
Well, literally, we would be walking into walls.
You start walking into walls and
We
stuff.
would be walking into walls
You get on the fantasy of the like, ooh,
and
ooh,
walking into the middle of the streets, and all kinds of
ooh.
crazy crap would be
Yeah,
happening.
and you would die.
Yeah, exactly.
You,
Extinct is the word, dude.
you would become extinct. And then those genes that we were talking about earlier would not get spread around.
They just go.
so, so anyways, it's important. So all of this has been a long while. So you can go about. So here's the way we do this, folks, and we'll tell you for
Yeah.
the 10 people still left on
Right.
is we engage people by asking them who's important to you.
Over here.
We don't walk up to the demonstrators of the Capitol and say, hey, hold on a minute. Would you please notice the difference between your sensory experiencing and your fantasy stuff? Because then they would whack me over the head with a fire extinguisher.
You wouldn't get that whole sentence
Right,
out probably.
right. I don't want to get whacked with a fire
Yeah.
extinguisher.
Yeah.
But if I ask them that question, probably in a different context, they'll answer me.
Yep.
But I will have engaged them. And now I can take them through the whole process that eventually gets them into the conversation about noticing the difference. I've done this, folks, including with extreme gun collecting people. Okay. And you can, and they will have a really cool discussion with you about looking at the difference between reality and fantasy. But you got to work them up to it. You can't just
got to warm them up.
got to warm them up, and the way you warm them up is through the two loops of the
Right
matrix.
here.
In large part, the warm up of the two loops of the matrix is to then get folks to that noticing the difference between reality and fantasy. And everybody thinks, what's that mean? Okay, let's look at it this way, folks. There's about 325, 350 something million people in the United States.
Something like that.
Something like that. I guess quite a few of them are babies and stuff. So let's make it down to 300,000.
All right.
That might be able to do D1. Notice the difference between reality and fantasy. And let's say every single one of those 300 million people did that D1 analysis 5 times a day. What do you think? What might that do? I don't know. Now, we don't have any research evidence.
Yeah, right.
We don't know, but it'd be a hell of a cool experiment.
A very interesting thing to do.
But what might happen? What might happen if this 300 million people of the United States kept going back and noticing the difference between their reality, five senses experiencing, versus their fantasy? They just keep coming back to it 5 times a day in and day out. They just keep on doing that. I would like to know what happens. I think it would be cool to see what happens with that. Melinda says psychological flexibility.
There's a
That's
good chance that it would show up.
good chance that would show up. And then DRRing, that was the hypothesis, Melinda, would be that they would do more derived relational responding that was based on five senses experience.
Reality.
They would think of better ways to chop wood, better ways to carry water, better
Better
ways.
ways to get some rest or
Exactly. Instead
to have meals or whatever.
Instead of the next better conspiracy theory. Uh, so that would be the hypothesis that we would be running on, and that's an experiment. We don't. So the only way that we can do that experiment is get a whole bunch more people doing D1.
To do this.
So you are all deputized to go out.
Pretty clever of us, huh? How we just did that. Right?
Do the 2 loops and then get people to noticing the difference between reality and fantasy.
Yep.
That's how we do it.
Every day.
Or dang near every day of our life.
Every day.
We've got a few tens of thousands.
Yep.
When we started this, there was, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
First there was me, and then there was 3, 4, 5 of us. Phil was one of those, and pretty soon we were up to 10, and then
we were doing it every day.
Then a few hundreds,
yep.
And then a few thousands, and we just keep adding. We just keep adding. But we would like to have a whole bunch of people getting to the point of noticing the difference between reality and fantasy, and basing a lot of decisions based on reality. I mean, not decisions, behaviors, sorry. Literally basing your behaviors based on reality events. Guessing pain is a big
motivation thing. Oh, yeah.
Fantasy yourself.
You got it.
Pain, you betcha. Right. Oh, it's a strong pull, fantasy. I'm not going to kid you about that.
Yeah, very
it's
seductive.
Easy pickings for advertisers and stuff.
Yep, very seductive.
Easy pickings. So that's why we want everybody doing the D1 thing. It's not that you're not going to have fantasy. There's no humans that we know of.
You got to have a few.
Versus, I mean, unless there's horribly, brain dead or something. But other than that, everybody fantasizes, and probably who knows what it all leads to. But you gotta get that fantasizing up in the middle there. Get contact with the
noticing the fantasizing,
right, and don't get yourself all wound up into something. In all honesty, end up being really destructive looking, running around the halls of Congress, knowing the difference, right? Maybe knowing the difference. That's the wisdom to know the difference.
That's the wisdom. There it is.
There's your wisdom to know the difference.
Fact and fiction, and the wisdom to know the difference.
That was used in the inauguration, wasn't it? Somebody.
Yeah. Well, Biden referred to it. Yeah.
Right. Taken from the Serenity Prayer. Running around the halls of Congress, right? Now there's senators and representatives that are in fantasy land.
We have to take back our country, right?
Running around the halls of Congress too, so they also need to be doing the D1 thing.
Yeah,
we could all use to be doing it. I am not excluding myself from that club. We all need to be doing it. So go do it. Have fun. But you do it. If you start with the question, "Who's important to you?" You get better results.
It's a great place to begin.
Gets people into the game of noticing, and it's sort of interesting to talk about. So we'll be back.
We will.
And this is ninja, folks.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate ninja move.
Somebody had to be there with the whiteboard.
I've actually done this with folks without a whiteboard.
Oh, yeah. You don't need the whiteboard. Right. That's true.
You can do this without it. But that's sort of ninja.
Yeah.
Somebody come in, the ninja training that we do with folks. This is sort of ninja. We're talking about doing it in the darndest of places, but that's what we do.
Yep.
So we'll be back Monday. We got something on Monday.
We have a special guest on Monday.
Oh, okay. We're doing all kinds of stuff in the Act Matrix Academy.
Yeah.
Come check it out. Okay, we'll sign off now. Bye-bye all. Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Publishing 4 courses soon. Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. That's true.
Okay.
Soon to be let known.
Oh yeah, we never told them to click for sign up for the.
We did at the very beginning, but then we kind of didn't do it, and now we're remembering.
Okay, if you're there, still there, click up, sign up for the Act Matrix Boot Camp. You can come out certified.
Yep.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
I didn't love that.
Fantasy reality.
Bye bye.